Okay, welcome to Mobility Monday. This is episode number 4. So the first one we were talking about mobilizing yourself in the bottom position of the squat, and we were talking about how it's important to keep the neutral spine. But when we were talking about the spine, we were mostly talking about thoracic spine. So we're talking about watch the arching back, watch the arching back. Because also, all parts of the spine can flex. And so what we're going to be talking about today is lumbar flexion when you are coming down into your squat, otherwise known as the butt wink. It's a common thing, and actually it's a common thing for me too. So hoping that these guys here can help me out today and watch if they can correct it with their tips, and then you can maybe take over into your own training.
Right. So what I noticed with a lot of people with the butt wink, they just don't engage your glutes enough. And once I told a couple of my clients, hey, before you go descend down your squat, try to engage your glutes all throughout the range of motion. And what I found was it's very successful. Like if you can see, I'm gonna get DJ to face that way. Yep. And I'm gonna get DJ to go into a squat. So descend slowly. And then you guys see that tilt like that. It's very, very visible when DJ does a squat. So give them one more time. One more rep. Yeah, right there it starts to like tilt in, right? So now what I want DJ to do is stand up. So now I want him to engage his glutes throughout the range of motion, okay? So you're gonna engage your glutes, keep your core tight, chest up, head up, okay? Now slowly descend. And you're gonna see here, he's not gonna wink as much because he's engaging those glutes. There you go, and go up. Oh, it's almost gone, right? It's just a little tip that you can do, because I feel like a lot of people when they do squats, they lose tightness in the bottom, and they only, they just don't engage your glutes enough. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the main movers, right?
So we have a couple different muscles that make up the glutes all together. We have glute max, which externally rotates or turns the hip out and brings the leg back behind us. We have glute medius and minimus, which are more stabilizers that push the leg out to the side. It's called abduction. Those guys actually internally rotate or turn the hip inside. So when we're going through our squat pattern, we're engaging both. But in terms of moving up and down, that's going to be glute max. That's primarily responsible for that movement. So we talk about deadlifts, we talk about squats being very strong activators of the glutes. Typically talk about glute max. Even though the glute medius and minimus are responsible for stabilizing and preventing the knees from crashing in, we keep them pulled out. That's a lot of times the stabilizers in the glute max or glute medius. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about activating the glutes, we're just making sure that the muscle, we're creating that communication from the brain to that muscle to stay active and keep working. As Jericho, before the video, Jericho was pointing out to DJ that the butt wink might happen because we're not telling that muscle to continue to contract, and so that signal gets dampened, the glute doesn't stabilize and hold the lumbar spine and the pelvis in the position where we want, and things kind of roll out. Because it's very easy to put our body in a position that's not stable or maintained. It takes a lot more effort to activate muscles and hold us in proper positions. So the body finds ways to get lazy because the body likes to be pretty lazy. It doesn't like to work very much.
It's efficient.
That's right. Yeah, so activating those muscles appropriately will allow us to maintain that stability through a greater range of motion. What you're going to find is at some point in your squat, you're going to start to go through that butt wink or that tuck under position at some point. For most people, and that's not lack of glute max activation, but that's what's called, it's pretty much a structural approximation, or we have the femur, which is the bone in the leg, starts to jam up into the pelvis, which is the bone that the femur connects to or attaches to. And at some point, as we go down in that squat, those two bones are going to start to jam up into each other. It's not necessarily bone on bone, but there's ligaments and tendons and other, so we have apposition of tissue. Yeah. And that's going to force the pelvis to start to tuck under and get that butt wink position. So we can put it off for longer by being very activated through the glutes, as Jericho was working with DJ. But at some point in your squat, at some depth, you're going to start to tuck under and get that butt wink, just because tissues are forcing that to take place. Yeah. So then we have sort of the ongoing debate, depending on who you talk to. Is it okay to work through a butt wink? Is it not okay to work through a butt wink? As long as there's a butt wink taking place, we're not in a neutral spine anymore, so it's good to be aware of that for people that have low back injuries, herniated discs, and maybe you don't want to go that far down. But for people that have no low back issues, have good activation of the glutes and the spine extensors, maybe going down into a depth where you're going into a little bit of butt wink. Some people will say it's functional because we're designed to go down into these ranges, even if it's a forced butt wink, if you will. So it's up for debate.
Well, I think it's pain is our friend, right? If there's some sort of pain happening, there's something wrong in the movement, and there's something wrong with your body that you need to address.
Right.
So like Stuart always says, you have to go through with pain-free.
Correct.
And if you feel any sort of pain, ask us or ask a fitness professional what you should do to kind of correct that.
Yes.
And you don't have to always squat like further as the grass, right? I mean, if you can't do it and your butt wink is really, really severe, which some people I know do, and it hurts them, why would you do that to yourself, right?
Right.
So always go with a pain-free movement, pain-free range of motion, and kind of work at it. Maybe add a little bit of a depth every single time. Try to keep your muscles engaged at all times and keep everything tight. But then if there's some sort of pain, I mean, obviously you don't want to go into that position.
Awesome. All right, well, thanks very much for watching. We've got a bunch of other stuff coming up here. We're talking about wrists, we're talking about hips again, we're talking about ankle mobility, lots of stuff coming up. So stay tuned, click on that subscribe button. Also, our man Jericho here at Team Developmental on IG. Follow him, he's got great videos, very informative, lots of knowledge. And so yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Because knowledge is power.